Hey YouTube, welcome to the Wyvern Watch, and here with another deck profile. This time my Invoked Dogmatika deck, of which I've enjoyed playing for quite a number of years now. I absolutely love the Dogmatika, the OG Dogmatika stuff that is. Not so much the later stuff with the ritual summoning. I think the artwork's just incredible on the cards. Obviously the first one being the Ecclesia herself, which we've managed to pick up in the Ultimate Rare. Absolutely stunning cards in my opinion, which of course I needed to have as soon as they came out. But of course we've mixed it with the Invoked package. What isn't in here is, like I say, any of the later Dogmatika stuff, and normally this deck's mixed with Shadow as well, which I've completely ignored. Didn't want to introduce a third archetype into this particular build, so it's all focused on Dogmatika shenanigans, of course, with loads of hand traps, a few hand traps, Invoke package built in, and of course there's another little trick in here which we're sort of utilising the extra deck with as well. So, like I say, one of my favourites. So I've taken this to locals quite a few times. And I used to do all right with it, to be honest with you. I actually won with this deck once. However, recently, not so much. I think it's been power crept somewhat. I still love the artwork. Like I say, I've already shown this one, but I still love the artwork. But like I say, it's one of my favourites. Ecclesia, of course, cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster special summon from the extra deck. Can only use each of the following effects once per turn, and if this card is special summoned from, if a monster is special summoned from the extra deck on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand, which of course is the same for the Dogmatika cards anyway. And if this card is normal or special summoned, you can activate the effect and add one Dogmatika card from deck to hand, excluding Ecclesia, of course. And you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, which is also quite a common theme throughout the archetype. So normally, you use this card to get your extra piece that you haven't got. It might be a Fleur-de-Lis, it might be a Maximus, but obviously we're about to show you those cards anyway. So kick things off with 3 Ecclesia. Now, quite unusually, I still play the one Dogmatika Aid-in as well, the Enlightened. Just because, like I say, I'm not playing the Shadow package, so those are extra card slots available in this particular deck. But shares its abilities to obviously not be destroyed by monsters special from the extra deck. It can special summon itself from the hand, assuming there's an extra deck monster on the field. And if this card is destroyed by battle card effect, you can special summon one Dogmatika monster from your deck, which is actually quite nice, but only the one off just to get that extra piece in. But the artwork is super cool as well on this particular card as well. So I just wanted to make sure one of those is in there. Next one, of course, is a 2-of, which is the Fleur-de-Lis. This is really the incredible artwork. I think this is absolutely ace. The Fleur-de-Lis, the Ignited, this is the one that sort of can take opponents by surprise to a certain extent, but in the main phase, if a monster special summon from the extra deck is on the field, you can obviously quick effect special summon this card from your hand, and then if you control another Dogmatika monster, which of course usually is Ecclesia, you can negate the effects of one face-up monster on the field until the end of the turn. And then when your Dogmatika monster declares an attack, you can make all Dogmatika monsters you currently control gain 500 attack. And that is permanent. So, but that's not necessarily the Fleur-de-Lis that's attacking, that's just any Dogmatika monster that's attacking, which then makes your Ecclesia 2000, which of course gets over most of the sort of level 4 lower stuff most. But yeah, 2 of those. And the other 2-of, to complete the Dogmatika main deck monsters, is of course Dogmatika Maximus, which works in a little bit different way to the others. So you can banish one Fusion, Synchro, XYZ or Link monster from the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand. And then during your main phase, you can activate this effect, send 2 monsters with different names from the extra deck to the graveyard. Also, your opponent sends 2 monsters from their extra deck to the graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, which is, again, a pretty standard clause. You just need to be aware of which order you're doing things in. But of course, we're using extra deck monsters that activate in the grave. So hopefully your opponent doesn't have too much in the way of that function. But we've got an extra deck full of them. So onto the Invoked package. Obviously there's only one main deck monster, and we're of course playing 3 Alistair the Invoker himself. He's got the mat to prove it. So Alistair the Invoker, obviously an iconic card for Yu-Gi-Oh! I would say now. Normal summon Alistair is of course always a warning sign for an opponent, shall we say, because obviously the chances are a Mechaba's coming if you don't have something to stop everything going off. So quick effect, you can send this card from the hand to the graveyard to target one fusion monster you control. It gains 1,000 attack and defense until the end of the turn, which comes slightly later in the game. But it is a useful to have nonetheless. And if this card is normal summoned or flipped face up, you can add 1 invocation from your deck to hand. So quick way to get to your fusion spell, which will come up in a little while. But we're not finished with monsters just yet. So I've got 3 Ash Blossom, a Joyous Spring. Not everybody's favourite card, of course, but with us playing this one in locals, there are a few hand traps in here. When you go through my profiles, guys, you probably won't find an awful lot of hand traps in my decks, mainly because I don't take them all to locals, of course, and I'd rather use the slots to just have more of the names of that particular archetype in the deck. But on this occasion, like I say, there's room for it, first of all, but also I tried to use the sort of more potent cards that might disrupt my opponent. So I've gone for 3 Ash and 3 Ghost Bell. That's it for hand traps, actually. But you can obviously mix and match these as much or as little as you want. If you want to take them out and add a Shaddoll package, if you wanted to, you could do that. You don't need too many cards for a Shaddoll package, to be honest. But obviously, if a different hand trap is more prominent in that particular format, then obviously you go for that. The last monster is, of course, the Irish Sword Soul. We are negating monster effects in this deck relatively easily, so Sword Soul will obviously special summon herself if you do that. So I just thought I managed to pick one up in Starlight Rare as well, which is really pretty. I think it's a super looking card, that, actually. But yes, that just there's a little extra trick to the package. So that is 18 monsters. We're moving on to spells now. So of course we'll start with the 3 ofs, and Nadir Servant is up and running still at 3. It did get limited, I think. Did it go down to 2? I think it was 2 at one point. So Nadir Servant, this is a great card and great artwork as well. This is the OG print, of course. But send 1 monster from your extra to the graveyard and add 1 Dogmatika monster or Fallen of Albaz from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and then that has attack less than or equal to the monster you sent in the graveyard. Also, for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. You can only activate Nadir Servant once per turn. So the idea is that you have 1, quite large extra deck monster to go to. So obviously you don't tie yourself down to which monster you might be going for. I've gone for Tri Brigade Arms Bucephalus 2. For that roll, because that's got 3,500 attack, which should cover most of the monsters in the deck anyway. You do have to be careful with the last effect, of course, so you can only special summon monsters from the extra deck. So for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck, but you can do stuff before it and then activate the servant, so just be careful of which order you're doing things. Next 3 off is the Invoke package again, so back to Magical Meltdown. Obviously the field spell, I think we're only running the 1 field spell, yeah. So when this card is activated, you can add an Alistair Invoker from deck to hand, and then the activation of your cards and effects that includes the effect that a fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated, and also your opponent's cards and effects cannot activate when a monster is fusion summoned this way. So it stops a certain amount of effects once you get to your mecha, but it doesn't come up an awful lot, that, guys, to be honest with you, but you need to make sure that you are aware of it just in case it does. The last three of is the other little trick to this deck, which is Ultimate Slayer. Again, not a card that everybody likes, but I instantly fell in love with the artwork again. Obviously, I believe that is Appaloosa without the polar bear this time. But Ultimate Slayer says your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to this card's activation, which is cool. And then send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then target one monster your opponent controls with the same card type, Fusion, Synchro, XP, Pendulum or Link, and shuffle it into the deck. Well, the only card that I don't have access to is Pendulum, so you might want to side them out if it's a pen deck, but sorry, I'm getting a bit snotty again, I don't know what's going on. But you'll find when we get to the extra deck, I'll try and explain the options that are in there and why they're in there, but Ultimate Slayer, of course, super useful card in this particular deck. The fusion spell itself is Invocation. Still got the ultimate rare versions of this card again. Everyone knows what Invocation does, but of course you're fusion summoning and potentially fusion summoning with your opponent's monsters out of their graveyard as well. A couple more standard stuff. So you've got Forbidden Droplet. This is the only, I know it's not quite the only deck I play Forbidden Droplet in, but we've got two of in here. Fairly standard stuff for Droplet, but obviously that's one of the cards that are negating effects, therefore will trigger Irish Sword Soul. I've also got two Pot of Desires in here. Might switch these out soon. I've got a couple of quarter century ones arriving, so I might go for those, but actually I quite like the OG secret rare ones there. We've got spot removal for back row, which is Cosmic Cyclone. In my opinion, sort of the better one. I know you have to pay 1,000, but to banish the card is super important sometimes. And then we've got 3 one-offs, so we've got Harpy's Feather Duster, Called by the Grave, and Terraforming. Terraforming, of course, to go for the Magical Meltdown and get the whole Invoked package going. That's my only copy in Ultimate Rare. I just like to sort of stick all the high rarity stuff in one deck. Harpy's Feather Duster, I still believe this is a great card. I still love to main deck it. And Call by Grave, of course, just to sort of stop a few hand traps coming in my direction. Last 2 cards in the main are Dogmatika Punishment. Apart from its artwork, of course, it's a great card anyway. So target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Send one monster with equal or higher attack from your extra deck to the graveyard. And if you do, destroy that monster. And until the end of your next turn after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. Again, need to be super careful when you use it, but can be very potent. That's the main deck, guys. That is 40 cards exactly. And then we're going to move on to the extra deck. Extra deck sleeves, by the way, I've got the Fallen Albaz and Ecclesia ones. I like these, to be honest. I think they look pretty good and obviously fitting for this particular deck. But let's just show you first of all the Invoked package. So of course we've got the 2 Mechaba going into these guys all the time. The unpronounceable one also gives us an option, and I'm still running the Invoked Purgatrio, something like that. Purgatrio, that's the one. Purgatrio, that's the one I was meaning. So yeah, that one's still there, and like I say, I've not changed the lineup on that one. The Purgatrio might go if you really needed to squeeze something else in, but ordinarily not. So few fusion options. So I've got one Titanic Lad, which is great if you don't have the Dogmatika follow up. Obviously, dump this into the grave, and at the end phase you can special summon the Ecclesia, which at then turn gets you the Fleur de Lis as well. One of the fusion options that's good to go for to obviously dump to the grave is the Garura even. So if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can draw 1 card, which is always good. And the Bucephalus that we've already mentioned when that's been sent to the grave, you can get a Beast Warrior or Winged Beast, i.e. this one, and send that to the grave as well, which means you can there's 2 ways of getting to that card. And I've also got 2 Elder Entity Unts, which of course you'll be familiar with, not an unusual one for spot removal on that. So those are your fusions. Sorry, my chair's squeaking. I've got 4 links as well. So Salamangreat, Great Almirage and the Secure Gardener are the cards that I use to go from Alistair the Invoker and get a couple of extra deck monsters into the grave, so we can actually make use of Maximus straight away. But it also gives us the fire option that comes up later on in order to use potentially Purgatrio if we wanted to go into that monster. There's the Bucephalus again. I have actually got a Starlight Rare version of that, but that is in my Harpy Brigade deck. And I've also got the 1 Artemis, which is the secondary run-up. Obviously, once you've used this package, if you do Alistair again, you'll go drop him into the graveyard and use Artemis, and then obviously you can fusion summon with the Alistair in the grave. So that's the link lineup, and just a few other dumping options. So I've got the Golden Cloud Beast Maelong. So if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So that's a great way of getting rid of a monster that can't be destroyed by card effects. I've got the Despian Lulu Walith, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can special summon 1 light spellcaster monster from your hand or deck whose attack equals its own defense, which essentially means you can get an Ecclesia or in fact the Fleur de Lis if you needed it. And the last one is the Merologic Aggregator, which of course is my only XYZ option for Ultimate Slayer, but still a good one, because what happens is if this card is sent to the graveyard, I can target 1 face card on the field, negate its effects until the end of the turn. So that's a face-up card on the field, so it can actually negate a spell or trap if we need it. But those are the options for the extra deck. So we've got 2 Synchro options, 1 XEs, obviously plenty of links and fusions for the Ultimate Slayer. So that is the end of the Invoked Dogmatika update. I do hope you like this deck. I absolutely love it. Just bringing it out again and just sort of looking at the cards really gets me excited and want to all of a sudden play it again. I think I'm playing tonight actually, so I might even just have a go with this, and because I haven't played with it for a while. But it's been updated a little bit with the extra deck, so hopefully you like the changes. Feel free to throw some comments in there. And guys, I am so close to 500, it's unreal. So if you haven't yet subscribed, but you do like, what I've been talking about, the sort of way, the style of my profiles, please do throw a subscribe out there. And then I'm going to continue to keep these decks updated and obviously bring you up to date with any later builds that I'm doing. Thank you so much for tuning in for this 18.5 minutes. And other than that, we'll see you for the next profile. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.